Adi Lakshmi.
Good evening, all. So, businesses have started. So first of all, some amazing speakers, and I think you will hear some resonance of everything you've heard before in what I have to say. Madhu, I think you particularly stole my script. I think you were cribbing from my sheet before you came over here. But so wonderful to see you. Can I start by asking another show of hands, right? We saw a few of you raise your hands when the question was asked. Do you want to raise capital, right? Can you raise your hands again? Raise your hands again. Who wants to raise capital? Awesome. A few, but not many. I have a question for those who haven't raised your hand. Why do you not want to raise capital? Contemplate that question. Is it because of some of the points Sarita made, that there is an innate fear of raising capital? I know, Sarita, you're petrified to touch other people's money. But in the US, there's a famous saying, business, it's quite simple. It's other people's money. All right? So I want to know, at least I want you to think about whether there's a fear associated with raising money. Okay? And maybe as we talk about scale, let's parallel the journey between, as you said, Madhu, the choices you have in raising capital and its consequences. And why are you reluctant to raise money? Because without raising money, it's very, very difficult to grow companies. You may have a formula that works, but in the end, it's about the time and speed it takes for a business to get somewhere. And all of you, all of us, I think the brand presentation said we're all dispensable, right? And I think the dispensability curve of businesses is very fast. Your relevance, time on the planet as a business is small. So you have to think very quickly about capital. Now, what is the correlationship between capital and scale? And what's the difference between, can I go to the next one, please? I'm pointing the wrong one. Just read some of the points that are made here. You know, there's so much myth around what is scaling. Scaling is a dynamic dance between ambition and pragmatism. It's true. All of you may have different vision or a different image of what is scaling. And you're constantly trying to optimize that desire to be that unicorn with what is pragmatic. And often your pragmatism comes in the way, right? You have to be impractical very often to want to scale. But that's not scale. Scale, not just for the growth of your startup, but for the growth of the people within it, is one definition I'd like to start with. I think you mentioned that scaling is not just about outside the company, it's inside the company. There's a flip side to scale. Our obsession with scalability is getting in the way of delivering value at every scale, including the most important scale, which is the scale of one. And probably that's a good place to start. When you talk about scale and want to reach for the stars, the fact is that that scale requires you to establish what you said, Madhu. Is there a product market fit? Is there a customer that is willing, able, and wants your business? But before we get into all the esoteric conversations around scale, what is the difference between growth and scale? What you see on the left is growth. For all of you entrepreneurs on the table, I grew up as a growth-minded entrepreneur. I still struggle with the concept of scale. So in a sense, I'm the wrong guy to talk about scale here. Fortune that we have scaled, but this is a traditional business. It's a mighty fine business. It's a respectable business. It's a business I would urge a lot of you to contemplate. Growth is beautiful. Growth works like this, as you have seen. Your revenues go up. There's somebody in the bread business here. I think I heard you say that. Could you raise your hands? Who is in the bread business here? Or the bakery business? Well, let's create a theoretical bread business, okay? How does a bread business work? Let's say you install capacity to make bread, and you can make 1,000 loaves per day. All right? You start your business. In the next slide, we'll see where you raise money from to actually create bread, but it needs an oven, it needs people, it needs input, and you start making bread. And your oven can do 100 or 1,000 breads a day, and you start by selling 100. And this is where you're at. This is where you're at. And Priyanka, you said that your business idea came from years of doing something related to the business before you got to the bread business, right? Or to the legal business. Likewise, if you're in the bread business, you're not going to wake up one fine day and said, hey, I want to make bread. You've been passionate, you were around your mom, you were around your friends, you understood what the bread business is all about, at least as a product, and you said, hey, I can do it. So you go right there and you start at that little place where the two worms are going to go up. You start selling 100, then you start selling 200, then you start selling 300. You're not innovating too much at this point. You're growing your business. How are you growing your business? By using capacity. Your expenses are going up. Why are they going up? Because it takes a little more input to make 200 bread as opposed to 100, and so on and so forth. Then your factory is full. You're happy, you celebrate, and you say we've reached 1,000 bread sales a day. Right? You're growing. Are you scaling? And do you want to scale? That's a question you have to ask yourself at each time. Because before I go back to that, let me show you here what happens. Here, you had virtually the same expenses, right? But by some miracle, by some amazing change in the algorithm of business and the logic of business, your revenues started doing this. How is that possible if you're selling bread? On the right, what you see is scale. On the left, what you see is growth. Both are beautiful. But what you see on the right takes exceptional thinking, exceptional amounts of capital in most cases, exceptional amounts of networking within a coterie of people who might invest in each other. What you see on the right takes a lot of investments very often. What you see on the right burns out a lot of businesses, right? The winner takes all business is usually here. A business that survives, produces wealth, produces money, gives you the respect that you need, the independence you need as entrepreneurs and women is on the left. I'm not de-glamorizing scale. I'm telling you the difference between scale and growth. And so often, and we live in a world where I think scale is glamorized and has been elevated almost to iconic status, that if you're not a scaling business, you're not a good business. I just wanted to spend a few minutes to dispel that idea within all minds here. But let's come back to the bread business now again. Can anybody tell me how could this bread business begin to do this? What is it that you need to do? Yes, please. Sorry? Economies of scale, right? How do we achieve that? If you're making bread, how does your bread business begin to scale? And please do think about the context in all of the businesses that you're doing. Any idea? Because to go from 2,000, from 1,000 to 2 to 3 to 4 is what that is doing. This is going from 1,000 to 10,000 to 100,000 to 1,000,000. That's how you achieve this. And remember, you've got to keep your costs low. Yes, please. Sorry? Automation. What will you automate? Your factory, right? You'll make it a little more efficient, but do you think you'll automate it to the point where instead of making 1,000 bread units per day, it's going to now make 1,000,000? Doesn't look feasible, right? You could build more ovens, but that's going to cost you. This little red worm is going to go up, and you're suddenly going to look like a growth business. Any more ideas? Sorry? Yes, create more demand integral to what you want to do. But as soon as you create more demand, you need more ovens, more expenses. The red worm is going to keep going up. Yes? Yes, please. Lovely. I'm going to come back to that. What about you? Shared kitchens. Super. We're getting there. Yes, please. There you go. You're beginning to see the calculus. Own the brand, outsource everything else. Anything else? Beautiful. We're cooking lovely, scalable ideas around bread in this kitchen here today. And let's take it forward. Let's take it forward, right? Let's ask the point you made. Can you repeat, please, for everybody? Is there a second mic? Can you just give it to her so we... चल रहा है? हाँ.
Have a third-party manufacturer manufacture the bread.
Have a third-party manufacturer manufacture the bread. Just breathe on that sentence for a moment and tell me, what did it do for you? If you were a bread maker, what did it do? What did it do to the red line? Yeah? It put the red line in somebody else's court. You did not have to invest in the oven anymore. Your capital expenses went down. Right? I think you spoke about shared kitchens. Let's come to shared kitchens. Okay? Hint, Uber. What did Uber do? Yeah. It took an asset called a car parked in a garage that everybody used for personal transport and converted into a money-making machine for the owner of that car. Right? Almost every modern home has an oven. Right? Imagine this very innovative bread maker amongst you who creates little packets. They ship to every home that has an oven, and every home makes fresh bread. You don't need ovens anymore. What do you need? They're all in the packet. You now need technology. And you're suddenly going from being a baking business, a bread business, to being a tech business. Because to service 1,000,000 homes with packets every day, keep happy customers going, you're suddenly going to go from thinking about, is this bread beautiful, to saying, how do I make bread in 1,000,000 kitchens? And so you're seeing the second facet of scale versus growth. When you're a growth business, a lot of what you do as an entrepreneur is be in the kitchen, as it were. Yeah? You're sweating the quality of atta. Is it fluffy enough? How can I minimize my cost on yeast before and squeeze out a few more pennies? Yeah? And how can I keep my staff hygienic so that the bread doesn't have bits of hair in it? And so on. That's what you're doing there. It's good. It makes good business. Here, you're out of the kitchen. Because if you're in the kitchen, you're not thinking scale. You can't. Here, you've got to go and meet those kitchen folks who have kitchens outside, right? That's what you've got to do. Here, you've got to build a tech stack that's going to help you figure out what to send to whom, when, how the ingredient services management happens, and so on and so forth. Let me pause there. Do you get some sense of the difference between growth and scale? Yeah? And I think all of you can think
both. That's the thing. It's not a binary. You're often going to get so many great ideas for your growth business by just doing this kitchen exercise. Think about it. If I want to be a scale business, what would I do differently? It's particularly focused on the red line. Focus there for a moment. We'll come to the green line in a moment. But think about cost. If you're constantly wanting to raise capital to grow your business, you have challenges. You are on that 18-month treadmill problem. Sorry? 7 minutes? Yeah, I'll be done in 7 minutes. No worries at all. Yeah, so this is what growth businesses versus, and I think the crux of scale versus growth, which is what I was asked to talk about today, is here. You have those choices. I will quickly go to the next piece. We could talk about green. There are so many different ways in which sales growth happens. But we'll talk about that at some other point. I quickly wanted to suggest to all of you who are not raising capital or who are raising capital to look at the black boxes. If you're starting and you're searching for a problem solution fit, that's when you're at the bread recipe stage. Who are you going to go to for money? Your family, your friends. Is that money free? No, it comes with social risk, right? It comes with what will dad say if I fail and I burn his pension money, right? I do not want to hear my husband crib at me if I burn his money. Don't. If you want to be an entrepreneur, you have to be willing to fail and lose money. Face it. There's no way you will succeed in business if you don't fail in business. Very few of you, I've never seen an entrepreneur who has never failed. And failure isn't binary. You learn from failure. That's the first piece you're in. Once you have bread that everybody wants to buy, you're in the second piece. That's where incubators come in. Have you met anybody who invests in incubating businesses? Hands up. Great. Who has not met folks who invest in incubators? Raise your hands. And who isn't bothered about the difference, which is probably most of you, right? I'd suggest all of you think about those two guys because it seems that when you're a young business, that's the space you are in. But what are you doing? You are creating for yourself proof of the fact that your product has a customer. This is golden. And who is that customer? That customer is a profile that can scale or grow. If you're making, let me make a vague example. If you are making vegan food for Japanese monks who visit Varanasi between October and December, it could be a great business. But it's not a scalable business. You found your customer, you had a great product, but I don't know how many Japanese monks who eat vegan food visit Varanasi between October and December, right? But if you made bread for people who have weak stomachs, that's a product market fit area that you want to be significant in. So figure out how scalable your product is. Optimize. All of this I don't want to tell you. Here is where serious money starts getting raised. And Sarita, I have to say something to you and everybody here for this movement that we are a part of, that it's, India has this year about 60,000 startups registered. 18% women-led. If you see the average amount, please go ahead. I think applaud yourselves. 2017, it was about 10%. The number of women led. So you've almost doubled, which is great. But the fact is that the average ticket size for a woman-led business is, can you guess? Half? 1/4? Any ideas? Yeah, it's about 1/3 of what men-led businesses have. Now you could talk about the statistical problem associated with that, but that's sad. And why is that? Because very few women operate in this space. All of you here have the opportunity to think about your place under the sun, which is hack your way to the point where your business can grow. It need not scale, but it needs to grow fast. Here is where you retire. I think our first speaker spoke about buying houses in Dubai and yachts in the Bahamas. If those are your dreams, this is where it happens, right? But that's far away. And trust me, you will need Priyanka well before this happens here, right? And by the way, we can all be given some equity because you attended this and you made those businesses. Sign the contracts. But this is later. Focus here. Guys, please focus here and get to this. As a cohort, whatever you do, disappointments happen. I will skip through the next slide, except to say that even if you get here, the failure curves on scale businesses are massive. You spoke about the zombie space. This is zombie space. You built a business. Somebody took care of your kids. Your husband somehow managed to cooperate with your struggles for 5 years. You've reached that beautiful constraint zone. Now you have a choice. Do you find another gear and grow? The what of scale here is you. The woman in you, the entrepreneur in you. At this point, your gender is irrelevant. Your business is very relevant. And you will be shocked how many businesses go down that red snake and not up that gray ladder. On another day, we should do a slide just or a conversation just around this one. But the life cycle, if you get here and run out of energy, sell. If you get there and you want second wind, you're never going to be able to do it unless you've built a great team. Whilst you're in the kitchen, think about the people you've got with you. Think about how you're going to grow them. Think about how and who is the best partner to you. I really love the word founder fit. Yeah, but I think co-founder fit and cohort fit is also an important piece to think about, right? So quickly, we'll go here. 2 more slides and I'll disappear. What do you do which is different, right? On the left is a growth business. On the right is a scale business. 5 to 10% organic growth, 2x to 3x growth in 3 to 5 years. I have one request for you on the top line. When you go back to your office on Monday, write down all the things you're doing that consume your time. Then, write down all the things you should be doing if this is what you want to achieve. That's the transition you will need if you want to go from growth to scale. Because your biggest asset is your capability and your time. Where does it go? What do you do with it? Entrepreneur's involvement is at his or her maximum in managing operations. If you're a growth business, I said right at the start, you're in the kitchen. Look at what it says on the right. Entrepreneur's involvement is minimal in operations. Do you stop making bread? Do you stop looking at your factory? Do you stop looking at the quality of your supply? No. You get other people to do them. You write SOPs. You bring in tech. There are so many different things. But you will only do that if you decide that the one thing you will not do, beyond the fact that you invented good bread, is spend time in making it. All right? And I won't kind of go through every aspect of it. Okay? I want to leave you with some inspiration. Look at the bottom line. Where did it start in 2016? Where did it end up in January 2022? Yeah? In Jan 22, they raised their Series B and they went to IPO in 1 year after that. Who here believes they can do it? Please raise your hands. Right. It's great that we have so many who believe, but it's not great that so many of you don't. You're honest about it. Why can't you? What is it you need? Is your product not good enough? Are you not good enough? Is the market not there for what you need? Is your brand not good enough? My exhortation to you is look at the constraints that you have placed on yourself. And you might find that a lot of you did not raise your hands because of the stories you have told yourselves. Right? Sarita, if there's one difference that men's business language and women's talks about, it is the gumption to believe that you can do scale. Forget about the jargon around it. All of you who are here today will succeed in business in direct proportion to your belief in that success. That's a given. Two more. She wasn't the only one. Okay? I think Nykaa is well known. Does anybody know Hasura? You would know, right? Amazing tech business. The Good Glam Group? Yeah, most of you would know. What about this one? Dr. Garima Sohni, Pristine Care. The reason I brought this slide on is that I didn't mean to be derogatory when I went into the bakery business. It just was easier as a metaphor to explain things. But women can run sophisticated scaled businesses. Women can run businesses in technology. Women can run businesses that send rockets up in the air. Women can do anything. The constraint is your belief, okay? And therefore, as long as you can find just one user who really needs something and can act on that need, you've got a toehold in making something people want. And that's as much as a startup needs initially. That's all you need. And from there, your ability to be a scaled business is really good. This, by the way, comes from the founder of Y Combinator, right? So that's it. That's all about scale.